Maybe you notice a very slight improvement in the graphics. That is because this is from PC and no longer from PlayStation 5. You might ask why? Well, I will explain you, but this is a very unscripted video. It just happened to occur to me while setting up the graphic settings and setting up new force feedback settings that I never really shared those, and I think there were comments asking for them. So I will structure this as a quick unscripted video of sharing my thoughts on graphic settings, on force feedback settings, and a little bit on the channel content for EA WRC or Dirt Rally 3 in the near future. So there are two main reasons why I switched back to PC. First of all, greater availability of settings for the graphics and the opportunity that I now have a better PC, which I did not build for this game. I think building hardware for a specific game is not really the way to go. Usually you have a hardware to serve many games, and gameplay is always more important in my opinion. And the cars drive exactly the same on PlayStation 5 and PC. So if it's just about driving, there is little point in choosing a version. But I happen to have a better PC now, and the change cost right now were very low because of the upcoming 24 expansion. There was the option to either buy it new on PC or buy it first and then get the expansion pass. Whatever I did on the PlayStation side, I would have paid the same for the expansion pass anyway. So it turned out with a nice deal that the switch to PC and completely buying the game whole new again will have cost me $15. Yeah, that's okay. It's not like I paid full price or I had to pay full price twice to make that switch. Then I would probably not have done it. Yeah. Second reason though is VR. I see there is no support of VR on console, and now my PC can finally support or let's say it's VR ready for the future. I tried VR for sim racing a few years back, and my conclusion was that is definitely the future, but it's not there yet for me, because I like to look around in a car with my eyes and not with my head, turning the head all the time. Now with improved displays and moving away from Fresnel lenses with the first headsets, I think it's maybe just 1 or 2 generations of headsets away that I will move back to VR and away from a screen again, because that is, I think, the long-term goal. And since EA Sports WRC seems to be now a long-term project with DLCs, I think it was the right time, or the best time as a switch of opportunity to switch back to PC now. Yes. Now for the graphics settings that couldn't be adjusted on PlayStation. First, there's the anti-aliasing, which is turned all the way up now. If you turn it off, the game looks horrible. If you have no anti-aliasing, the game looks really horrible. And the higher you can set this, the better it gets. Downside is it also adds some kind of ghosting, I think, because Unreal Engine uses temporal anti-aliasing. If I could set the technology, which kind of anti-aliasing is used, I would prefer a static one that only takes the information of one frame and not several, but I can't pick that. So that is all the way up, looks best. Then VSync. VSync on. If you remember, I put a side by side on the screen now, hopefully. If you remember my Kenya guide on PlayStation, there was horrible screen tearing all over the place. Never went away. Now it's gone. No more screen tearing. Rock solid frame rate, always fluid, and no tearing of the screens. You can drive with a much better experience. Now for the things I turned off. First, car reflections, which is the reason that, for example, the metallic blue on the Subaru looks so plasticky on PlayStation. You cannot adjust it away. That is the car reflection setting. I played around with it and then decided to turn it completely off. Whenever it is off, you get rid of this plasticky effect. It just gets more and more the higher it is set. The only downside is inside the car, it is sometimes a bit darker. Another upside is the flickering inside the car is gone. In some sun shining effects, you get a certain flicker in the car. I found out with playing around that happens whenever the car reflection setting is below high. And on PlayStation it is definitely below high, so you always get that flicker and have no way to remove that. I turn it off. The cars look a little bit, let's say, older, less reflective now, but much more integrated into the world, in my opinion. Post-processing also turned off. That is the reason that many shots look unsharp. This adds the tilt shift effect with some kind of focus point emulating a camera or something. I turned that away. Now the whole picture is sharp in every scene, in every menu. The whole image stays sharp without any post-processing. And mirrors, it's just a personal preference. I don't need mirrors when driving a rally car. There is nothing to see there, and even if there would be, the image is wrong because it's not a raycast mirror reflection, so it takes a bit away of the immersion. I just turned that all the way down because I don't need to have my PC calculate stuff that I don't use anyway. Yeah, but concluding, the graphics much better, yet still worse than Dirt Rally 2. I gotta admit, even with a PC that can handle all the settings on Ultra, the game still doesn't look as real or as muddy as did Dirt Rally 2. But it does look better than on PlayStation, and it adds a little bit of immersion. Though nothing I would shed a tear about. It is really just a recommendation if a window of opportunity would arise for you to make such a switch. Oh, downside of the switch is also you lose all of your progress. Like, even if you have linked your PlayStation account and your Steam account to RaceNet, there is nothing synced. All my liveries, all my suits, all the stuff, everything gone. Completely new save, new progress. Yeah. What was my point? Yeah, the switch value. Don't invest in it if you are tight on a budget, if it's not a switch of opportunity. If you want to, for example, get into sim racing, the console version is much more accessible. If you have a certain budget and price in, if you don't have any hardware at all, a console costs like a quarter of what a capable PC costs. If you have 3/4 of the hardware costs still available to you, you could much rather add more sophisticated peripherals like a good force feedback wheel or something. My direct drive wheel added much more immersion value than just some more immersive graphics will ever do. Yeah. Next, for the force feedback settings. First up, I have a Logitech G Pro wheel. That is the direct drive one from Logitech. Only makes one direct drive wheel. That one I have. Whatever I tell you now is only valid for that wheel if you have that too. Every wheel works a bit different. Every setting works a bit different on a different manufactured wheel. So take this with a grain of salt, or maybe just as a hint how to approach setting up the settings, and not copy paste if you do not have the exact same wheel. Okay? Side question here. For the owners of this wheel, do you have any recommendation for driving gloves? Like, I have gone through the third pair of gloves now because the stitching on the inside of the rim is so harsh that the force of the wheel rips it through over time, especially on the thumbs. They always develop holes because you rip through it from the force of holding the wheel. So if you can recommend anything there, maybe something cheaper than proper FIA fireproof gloves. I don't think I need fireproof gloves for sim racing, but something that can resist the wheel. Just if you have a suggestion, put down a comment. Anyway, the wheel is on default settings in the G-Hub. There is no damping. There are no filters active inside the wheel firmware, and the force is at maximum of 11 Newton meters. Now, process of finding values. Rather than on PlayStation, where I twiddled around a bit and found something that at some point worked, I did it more scientifically this time and turned down every setting to 0, and then experimented with one value to really understand what it does. And then decided on a workable setup and fine-tuned it with this understanding of what the different values do. The most important thing is the self-aligning torque. That is what you have to set for the cornering forces that you feel. How much force a cornering effect has on your front wheels and how you control a car, how you catch a slide and everything. I turned it to the value you see, where it is still manageable on tarmac. It goes up to like 5-6 Newton meters in a normal smooth corner, which gets a bit tiring if you drive many stages back to back, but it is still manageable. And even on the low grip surfaces like on ice, you still get around 1 to 2 Newton meters of force, so you always have the control there. Then I want to mention specifically the frictions, which both are turned to 0. Why? They are just dampers, I found out. The wheel damper always damps. It slows down the movement, whatever movement it is. And the tire damper, the tire friction dampens whenever the wheels have contact with something. It slows down all the movements. I had it on very small values because it felt better at low speed, but then I turned it completely off. That feels the best because you can let the wheel move. If you have a rear-wheel drive car and you want to catch a slide, then you kind of let loose of the wheel and then feel where the tires want to go. That is the perfect way to steer, to counter steer a slide. And this movement, this auto movement of the wheel, is accelerated by the self-aligning force, but it is slowed down by those two frictions. So you are much slower in catching drifts, especially sudden oversteering, when those frictions are high. And it feels most controllable if they are low. The other stuff is just preference. Maybe if you have the same wheel, try exactly these values and see how you like them. I like them to the effect that I feel all of the things that I drive across, especially the suspension value to feel which road things I drive across. I clearly feel if I, for example, on tarmac hit a curb or something. But that is basically personal preference. Try to understand what every value does and then find something that works for you. Well, this is already taking longer than I expected. Okay, the upcoming content, country guides. I will postpone everything that has upcoming content still. That includes Portugal, Greece, and Monte Carlo. They get more stages in DLC. I would rather make country guides when they are finished. So even though I announced Portugal a while ago and I'm getting better at setting up Portugal cars, Portugal is postponed until we have FAFE also included. because it might add the whole character of the event. I will see for Sweden if Umeå stages in the DLC will add or change my recommendations. Maybe I will produce an appendix, but only if necessary. That's about it. Probably took longer than I thought, but I hope it was somewhat helpful for some of you. Yes. Wish you a nice day. See you next time. Ciao.